The BMW i8 proves that plug-in electric cars can be cool. We also look at some angry letters about the Subaru WRX next on Talking Cars. It's time again for Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
You know, plug-in and electric cars, they have kind of an image problem. I think a lot of people think of them as just transportation pods, like eating grape nuts without any milk, or just compliance cars built by manufacturers solely so that they could sell cars in the state of California. But there are some cars that are pushing this trend. One of them, parked behind us in the podcast Thunderdome, is the Tesla Model S. We've said a lot about it. Something we haven't said a lot about, though, is the BMW i8. Gabe, what's under the hood?
That's right. Well, just about everything known to mankind in terms of technology. And while these two cars, the Model S and the BMW i8, they kind of make electric drive very sexy, appealing, stylish, kind of a fashion statement, but they really diverge in terms of technology. The Tesla is really simple, believe it or not, whereas the BMW is really complex. 2 engines, 2 transmissions. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Jake, explain the difference between the powertrain of the two cars.
Sure, yeah, we'll do the Tesla first. There's an electric motor, a battery, and it goes.
And that's about it.
Yeah, 1 speed. It's simple. Mm-hmm. This thing, like Gabe says, it's got everything. So in the front, we have 129 horsepower electric motor, which is similar to the one that's in the i3. In the back, you have a 3-cylinder, 1.5-liter turbocharged engine mated to a 6-speed automatic, also mated to 11 horsepower electric motor that fills in the gaps. So you take this little 1.5-liter engine and you boost the out of it.
Yeah.
And you know, you wind up with kind of some dead spots, you know, and this is why they don't boost engines so high, because you want to make it smooth. So
because this is basically the mini, it's a mini engine that's kind of had all the screws turned up a bit. It's,
right.
It's built a bit stouter.
Basically, we have a 3-cylinder from the Mini, but turbo, big turbo
that's the
put on
sexiest
it.
Mini they've ever built.
Sure. And they can do that because of the electric drive. It can mask all the turbo lag that's inherent to a big turbo.
So that's interesting. So in the end, you got these two cars, and they have similar numbers. So if you get the high performance version of the 85 kilowatt hour Tesla, you know, 0 to 60 is like around 4 seconds. Same thing with this guy. But the way they do it is a bit different. So the driving experience is different. So here, when you have
with the BMW.
With the BMW, yeah. So the BMW, you still got gears. You still got a bunch of noise, you know, so it sounds like a more conventional car, and it actually takes off more like a conventional car. So the Tesla, with the 1 speed, all the torque at 0 RPM, the thing just
it's
catapults
hyperdrive.
you.
It just
is.
warp speed
It
all
is.
the time.
It absolutely is, and you take off and it's like nothing else. So the numbers are the same, but it's a definitely different experience between the two cars.
Totally different character.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still, the Tesla is more of a consistent kind of a thing. And the BMW just has 2 personalities. I mean, it can be a totally do-gooder, quiet, stealth, electric drive kind of a car, and yet, with a flick of a shifter in sport mode, I mean, it just does a complete change into a badass sports car with all the sound that you want, with the rev matching, downshifting, with, I mean, you'd never believe there's a 3-cylinder engine behind you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and part of it is, it's not all the 3-cylinder sound, because a 3-cylinder with an electric car, you're going to have, you know, you have certain noises that electric car drivetrains make. You have certain noises that 3-cylinders make. But through the magic of electronics,
yeah, a lot of sound is synthetically piped in, so which is pretty common these days.
I don't know if I care if it sounds good, and it sounds great from inside.
Right, it does. It sounds great. So at lower RPMs, they put some stuff through the speakers, and you hear different things. But you know, it doesn't really matter. It sounds amazing. I mean, it's the best. You know, I think on the video and did the review of it, it's like it's the best sounding 3-cylinder you've ever heard in your entire life. I mean, it's absolutely amazing the way the car sounds. You know, that said, I mean, you look at what this car is going after, right? I mean, it looks like a supercar. It's probably being cross-shopped with supercars. It's super expensive, 140 grand.
Yeah, it's the most expensive 3-cylinder you can buy, probably.
That's exactly right.
And it's the most expensive BMW you can buy right now.
It's true.
But it's, you know, but it's still kind of like a kinder, gentler supercar, because it's, you know, even though it sounds kind of neat with that, you know, that big tough 3-cylinder, it's very easy to drive. It's got very light steering. It doesn't ride real bad. It's still pretty quiet overall. I could get my kids in the back. They're little kids.
Getting in and out's a bitch.
Yeah, but that's just, you know, for looks.
Well,
That's
totally,
true.
it's very unintimidating compared to a traditional supercar or even a Corvette or a Porsche 911. It's a very civilized,
super easy to drive.
gentle kind of drive. You're right.
Yeah.
It's easy to drive, and it's and you don't have that guilt trip that comes with driving like a big V8 that sucks the gas. You know, you feel like you feel good about it.
You compare. I mean, the most logical car I immediately went to compare this with is an Audi R8, you know, with a V8 or a V10, and you know, it's a completely different carbon footprint.
Completely, yeah. And BMW just has this is a very audacious kind of a car. I mean, to just design something as outrageously cool like that is just it's just such a statement.
Well, I mean, let's think about it a little logically.
Well, logic is
stop
besides the
that.
point here.
Once again, I have to be the logical one. This car isn't going to save the world.
Of course not.
I mean, I think we are seeing 30 miles per gallon with it, which I'm sure is going to be better than you get with
Well,
a
just like
Lamborghini most Lamborghinis or Ferraris, but it's...
Well, just like every plug-in hybrid, I mean, the miles per gallon is a function of the frequency of charging and the length of the trip. So I think on my own round trip of 160 miles, I saw maybe 38, 39 mpg, which is, you're not going to get that in a Porsche 911 or a Corvette.
No.
Or an R8.
No, you're certainly not. But I think you're right. You know, the thing about driving this car is that it's so cool. It's so far out there. I have not, in the 10 years I've been testing cars, I have not driven a single car that has gotten more attention. You know, I took it to a parking lot. I was stuck in the parking lot for half an hour having conversations with people. I mean, the doors alone, the sort of gull-wing doors that rotate up. And there's more to this car, though, than just a powertrain story. How's it built?
So the way it's built, it's extensive use of carbon fiber. So I mean, this car is super lightweight. So I mean, you look at this car, you know, you look at the Tesla. Tesla's kind of a very heavy car. You know, you get like around 1,000 pounds of battery hanging out with you. So this car, I think we looked at the numbers, about 1,300 pounds less. We're talking about 3,300 pounds.
About the weight of a Corvette.
About the weight of a Corvette, and you have several powertrains too. So I mean, they do that with extensive use of carbon fiber. I mean, this is not hand-laid carbon fiber; it's injection molded. But I mean, it's very lightweight materials. Some aluminum too, high-strength aluminum going for the front and rear carriages. So they get weight under control.
But is this where electric cars should be? Do electric cars right now make more sense as playthings for rich people than they do for...
I think I mean, it's a good strategy to go that way, because in order to raise the awareness of electric cars, to make sure that electric cars aren't these glorified golf carts and aren't just limited to a short leash in a neighborhood, it's something to be seen in. It's something to brag about. It's
something to aspire to. I don't aspire to a Focus Electric. I wonder if anyone does. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, look, you could go back, 15 years and go back to the Prius. You know, the Prius was so successful because it looked like something different. You know, they've tried a lot of hybrid cars and had, the hybrid version of the Accord, the hybrid version of the Civic, and it never was successful because it didn't really stand out. These things stand out. I mean, this thing, you know, maybe it stands out too much. I mean, I gotta say, people looking at it is like, what is that, a Pontiac Fiero kit car or something?
Wow.
I mean, it's really a little much. I mean, there's
Let's hope it doesn't
spoilers
catch on fire as much as Fiero.
Well, and speaking of catching fire, you know, I mean, in some ways, what they did was what the Fisker tried to do. I'm talking about Fisker.
That's a hell of a segue.
As a concept, right?
In a positive light here, because with
There's
Fisker,
a positive light.
Absolutely, the Fisker when it came out, it did something.
The Fisker Karma.
The Fisker Karma was a desirable vehicle. It looked great. It was hybrid electric and save whatever.
It tried to be all sustainable with the wood dredged out of the bottom of Lake
so I
Michigan.
mean,
or
this
something
car
like that.
is going to fill that gap. I mean, well, be careful, but, but you know what I mean? It's
Well,
like,
talking about the concept of the
concept of the
Fisker, not the
Fisker.
execution of the car.
yeah, the problem with the Fisker was the execution. It
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
the
the concept
concept. It was
is
a
great.
good concept,
Yeah.
and this is a good concept. It's the feel-good car of celebrities, and it will be. I think they'll be very happy with it.
Let's stay on that point of the conversion cars versus the dedicated electric cars.
Sure.
So all the conversion cars, I mean, Focus Electric is a really nice electric car.
Yes, it is.
Who buys it?
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. It doesn't matter. But if the car is unique, like the Tesla, like the i8, like the i3, like the Prius, I know this car is a hybrid, I know this car is electric, that's where it's at.
You can argue that a little bit with the Chevy Volt too.
Yes.
Because it's
No,
not.
the
It's
Volt-
not. They could have made a Cruise.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
the Volt belongs in that category as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, it's
Absolutely.
not doing great, but it's certainly doing better than most electric cars, most plug-in cars.
Right.
So $140,000. Do you want
Yeah,
one?
well, it starts at 137,000, but
Oh, it's a
who's counting,
bargain.
right? It tops out at 148,000. So when you look at an R8 or a Porsche 911 turbo all-wheel drive with typical options, not like the one we got, it's pretty much right there in the hunt.
Still, I have to say it kind of, I think it's a cool car. Again, it is. I don't even care how it drives. I don't care how the steering is. I don't care
It's
how
completely secondary.
I don't care. It is an experience, and especially when you have this kind of money, buying cars for the experience is worth something. It counts for a lot. It actually, though, makes me appreciate the Tesla even more, because for quite a bit less money, that is a highly practical, highly desirable, extraordinarily well-rounded car.
Well, look, I mean, this is the point, and we're putting these cars next to each other.
As is every journalist,
as
which is a
everyone
lazy
is.
thing to do to
And-
create
and
a
it's
story.
a ridiculous thing to compare these two cars and say which one's better, because they're completely different. So yes, the Tesla is the thinking man's car, right? I mean, the Tesla is not over the top in the styling. It is extremely practical. It actually does, it doesn't get 20 miles per gallon like this guy does. It's pure electric. It drives like a completely different experience than anything else. And yeah, 7-passenger, the whole 9 yards. I could throw my mountain bike in the back. I mean, it is extremely practical, easy to live with. Huge, big screen for navigation and all your goodies. This is,
It's the same iDrive you get in every other
Right.
BMW. Yeah,
Yeah, this thing really is a different animal.
it is. Definitely is. Moving to yet another different animal. A couple weeks ago, we did a show talking about the Subaru WRX. As is typical when we aren't totally favorable about an enthusiast-loved car, people get a touch angry with us. Let's see what came in the mailbox. From Richard Conway, serious hatchet job on the new WRX. I just got one and find it to be much nicer than the previous generation WRX, though I really miss the hatchback. Hard to take these guys seriously, I think he means us. About the steering and handling when car and driver, motor trend, etc. are giving such glowing reviews about the steering, handling, road manners, etc. I guess if you think a Camry is a target, then the WRX will provide too much road feel. Actually, we're complaining it doesn't provide enough, but never mind. Otherwise, I think the new WRX is a big step forward. Thoughts?
Well, if it's the kind of car for you, then who are we to dissuade you from going for a WRX? I mean, if you're a diehard enthusiast and you want this all or nothing kind of explosive performance, and you don't mind, roughing it a bit every day, then knock yourself out. What can I say?
Well, I mean, something also is that if you read between the lines of those other reviews, Motor Trend Car and Driver does gripe about the ride. They do gripe about the steering feel.
Yes, Car and Driver just did a month ago a face-to-face GTI and WRX, and it wasn't a whole lot different. The findings weren't a whole lot different than ours.
No, it came in second to the more civilized GTI.
Right.
Thoughts?
Well, I mean, look, you get a sports car that is faster, handles better, and Consumer Reports says we don't like it as much. We're kind of like, trolls. Hey, here's
sure.
fresh bait. But I mean, the truth is that it's not as fun anymore. It's like we see this with different cars. They try to take that dial and take it from 10 to 11, and they give up everything else.
Right.
And we've seen this with our cars before. I mean, the Mazda Speed 3 kind of did that too. And it's like, you know, I love cars like, you know, the Mazda Miata, which has never done that. You know, they never gave up on that fun. They're like, oh, we could get rid of all the fun and make it sound like crap.
BMW has never done that. And through the years, BMW was always known for the ride handling balance. You know, in the first WRX and to some extent the second WRX, they had a balance.
Yeah.
This thing.
So basically, it's like
balance.
you take an old one and you know, put some, you know, coilovers on it and put an exhaust on it and crank the boost and chip it so it's got no low-speed drivability and it'll be faster and it'll handle better. But is it a better car? Well, for some people it will be. But for a lot of people, I think used to the old WRX, it's going to be like, all right, I guess I'm not driving on a racetrack every day, so it's disappointing here.
I mean, again, some people are looking for different things. I had asked, you know, would you buy a WRX or would you buy an STI? You know, because the power difference isn't as much anymore. This got us from Mike Wu. There's more than just the 40 horsepower gold wheels and big wing that makes the STI. The STI has an adjustable center differential, a helical limit swift differential up front, and a torsion differential in the rear. Also, the STI has far more chassis reinforcements for a stiffer ride. Also, the STI has Brembo brakes, which easily half the $8,000 to $10,000 difference. The STI Limited also gets you BBS wheels. It's essentially a detuned rally car for daily driving, fairly a bit extreme for daily driving, while the WRX is far more livable. Yeah, I mean, but you know.
Oh, did they forget the 2.5 instead of the 2-liter?
Well, it has the old engine, which other people.
It's quite a long list
other
there.
people pointed out.
So if you do review by press release specs, you know, he's got a point.
It's like you took your shopping cart through Build Tuner Car-O-Rama and differential here and BBS wheels here. To me, though, it feels an awful lot like the SVT Raptor, you know, the Ford SVT Raptor, which is they've sold tremendously well. You know, the Fox off-road shocks and all this capability that it looks damn cool. No one's going to use it. And I mean, okay, if you're going to rally race and buy an STI and go do that, I could see that, but you're probably going to replace these parts anyway. So for the normal buyer, it's a better spec car, but it's certainly not the better value. One more question about the WRX from, oh no, this is my favorite automotive podcast. Thank you. Keep up the great work, guys. Question for the next show. What are the CR team's recommended alternatives to the WRX?
Oh, well, fortunately these days there's no shortage of alternatives to the WRX. And one of them is, of course, the GTI. Another, I mean, if you want to turn it up a notch over a GTI, it might be too civilized for you, then the Focus ST is right there.
Is a Focus ST more civilized than a WRX?
Oh, I think so.
Well, I mean, personally, I would do the Fiesta ST. That is my car. And what's interesting about it, you know, civilized, I mean, the Fiesta ST, you know, it rides hard. There's no question. It's not necessarily a civilized car.
It doesn't have the power of these cars either.
But the Fiesta ST, I mean, it makes you tolerate it because the steering is just spot on. It's so engaging to drive. It wasn't just about like who could get 0 to 60 in the best time and who could handle the best, which it does really well. But it's such a driving experience. It's so engaging that unfortunately the WRX doesn't give you that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Fiesta ST is a good point. Yeah, I mean, it puts a smile on your face. It doesn't.
Totally.
I mean, yeah, you pay a price for it a little bit, but it doesn't beat you to the level that the WRX does.
Right. One other thing though is that the WRX is all-wheel drive. You do run out of options when it gets to all-wheel drive, but you would be able to buy a Golf R soon, and I believe that will be all-wheel drive. That if you really needed all-wheel drive, that would be that. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. If you're listening on iTunes, we'd love for you to give us a review. Also spread the word around. The more people, the merrier. As always, thank you.